All right, let's talk about this.
This is an extraordinary day. This is an issue that I grew up in the Democratic Party, and every major Democratic leader for 20 years has been making this promise to the American people. This was the fulcrum of Bernie Sanders' runs for presidency, that he was going to eliminate this discrepancy between Europe and the United States. But as it turns out, none of them were doing it. It's one of these promises that politicians make to their constituents, knowing that they'll never have to do it. And the reason they'll never have to do it is because they know that Congress is controlled in so many ways by the pharmaceutical industry. There's at least one pharmaceutical lobbyist for every congressman, every senator on Capitol Hill, and every member of the Supreme Court.
Notice that RFK Jr. did bring up Bernie Sanders. Now, is this going to be an earth-shattering thing? On the one hand, yes, because the Democrats right now lost a key point. I just want to rewind this again real quick in case you just missed out.
Promise the American people. This was the fulcrum of Bernie Sanders' runs for presidency, that he was going to eliminate this discrepancy between Europe and the United States. But as it turns out, none of them were doing it. It's one of these promises that politicians make to their constituents, knowing that they'll never have to do it. And the reason they'll never have to do it is because they know that Congress is controlled in so many ways by the pharmaceutical industry. There's at least one pharmaceutical lobbyist for every congressman, every senator on Capitol Hill, and every member of the Supreme Court. By some estimates, three. Pharmaceutical companies, the industry itself spends 3 times what the next largest lobbyist spends on lobbying. So this was an issue that people talked about, but nobody wanted to do anything because it was radioactive. They knew you couldn't get it by Congress. We now have a president who is a man of his word, who has the courage. President Trump was taking money from the pharmaceutical industry too. I think they gave you $100 million.
Oh my God. Yes, they gave him money too. Everyone wake up. They're all getting money. Is this going to be a huge overall cut? Possibly. But, I'm going to hit X to doubt.
But he can't be bought, unlike most of the politicians in this country. And he is standing here for the American people. There has never been a president more willing to stand up to the oligarchs than President Donald Trump. And I'm very, very proud of you, Mr. President, for your courage, I'll say, because I don't want to be crude, your intestinal fortitude, your stiff spine, and your willingness to stand up for the American people. We have 4.2% of the world's population. Our country represents 75% of the revenues for pharmaceutical companies. We spend in our country $1,126 per capita on drugs. In Britain, they spend about $240. They spend 1/5 of what we do. And this is true across Europe. And the drug companies, Europeans, if you ask them, it made no sense what they were saying. America has to pay for this innovation or it's not going to happen. President Trump is saying to our European partners is you got to raise the amount that you're paying for those drugs and pay for your share of the innovation. That the United States is no longer subsidizing that. If the Europeans raise the price of their drugs by just 20%, that is $10 trillion that can be spent on innovation, and the health of all people all across the globe is going to increase because we're going to have better products. So I'm just so grateful to be here today. I never thought that this would happen in my lifetime. I have a couple of kids who are Democrats, are big Bernie Sanders fans. And when I told them that this was going to happen, they had tears in their eyes because they thought this is never going to happen in our lifetime. And we finally have a president who's willing to stand up for the American people.
Right. Bernie Sanders, who also is now doing Fight the Oligarchy tour. Now, there's a lot to take away. There's a lot to take away from this story, okay? Because after this story happened, many people are arguing that that what Trump has been proposing could very well not happen at all. But this is something that has right now overtaken Bernie Sanders. Like Bernie Sanders, was he potentially outflanked by Donald Trump by doing this kind of story? Well, again, we have a lot to find out. But the White House is unveiling an aggressive drug pricing strategy targeting pharmaceutical companies, promising to dramatically cut prescription drug costs for American consumers. Donald Trump condemned the current pricing system as redistribution that has allowed drug makers to exploit U.S. patients, saying he will sign an executive order that will lower drug prices abroad. We are subsidizing others' health care, where they paid a small fraction of what we pay, the president said in a press conference on Monday, flanked by Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services Administrator Mehmet Oz, Dr. Oz himself. Even though the United States is home to nearly 4% of the world's population, pharmaceutical companies make more than 2/3 of their profits in America. That's not a good thing. Examples Trump pointed out included how single breast cancer drug costs $16,000 in the US, but just $1,600 in Australia, and how weight loss drugs Ozempic costs 10 times more in the US than in other developed countries. I am very worried about this Ozempic thing because people are going for that, and it is, listen, if you've seen the pictures of it, these prescription drugs, people can get addicted to that. We're no longer paying 10 times more than another country. The proposed policy, dubbed as Most Favored Nation, would force pharmaceutical companies to match the lowest global prices, in effect ending what Trump describes as systematic overcharging. Bernie, you got outflanked. Has Bernie been outflanked? Type 1 for no, Kit. Bernie Sanders has a secret strategy. You just wait and see. Type 2, no, I think Bernie Sanders might have been outflanked here. Kennedy also backed the plan from the podium, saying that his policy that American progressives should get behind. I have a couple of kids, as we said in the video, who are Democrats or big Bernie Sanders fans, and when I told them that this was going to happen, they had tears in their eyes, Kennedy said. They thought this was never going to happen in our lifetime. Trump is expected to sign the order earlier next week. During the final moments of his first term, the Trump administration sought to push through a Most Favored Nation plan, which would have tied reimbursements for 50 drugs by Medicare to the lowest prices paid by certain other countries. A federal judge blocked the effort after ruling that the administration had failed to give the public a chance to comment in violation of federal law. The Biden administration later rescinded the proposal under pressure from hospital and drug companies. Trump's order, if implemented this time, would likely draw strong opposition from pharmaceutical industry, which has argued that it would result in Medicare patients losing access to vital care. Well, great. Oh, hold on. Big Pharma wants to say they're going to lose access. I did 2 stories earlier in the show talking about, one, a healthcare insurance patient is not going to get his lung transplant, and number 2, how a young mother is going to be paying $44,000 plus to the insurance companies, and not to mention, oh wait, the kid's going to inherit a $12,000 bill. Oh, but losing vital care, big pharma cares, the healthcare insurance industry cares. And I understand these are 2 different institutions, but they're both playing the same game, and that's screwing the American people up the wazoo. Shares of U.S. drug makers fell. Oh, great. I'm glad they fell in extended trading after Trump teased the announcement last week, Reuters reported. One drug maker executive told the news agency that the plan was the biggest existential threat to the industry and U.S. biosciences innovation. But health policy experts support the plan. NBC News reported, arguing that drug companies should be forced to match the prices they've given other countries. However, they doubt the proposal would withstand the fresh legal challenges likely to arise. The U.S. paid 2 7/10 times more for all drugs in 2022 than other wealthy developed democracies, and 3 2/10 more for brand name medications, the Rand Corporation found. Peer countries pay less for drugs because they negotiate directly with the drug companies. Because they provide their citizens with universal health care coverage, they can act as gatekeepers, and that gives them leverage. Can we get Medicare for all, please? Please, can we get that? Is that going to happen? Are we going to get Medicare for all? Bueller? Can we get Medicare for all? Is everyone seeing this here? Continuing on. Pharmaceutical companies have long defended high U.S. prices as necessary for research and development. Trump dismissed this argument Monday, calling it a long-running con. They did one of the greatest jobs in history for their company, convincing people that this was a fair system. The U.S. Department of Health and Human Services did not immediately respond to a request for comment. Okay. Let's see. I just want to point out to everybody here that's watching. How long has this been happening, and how long have we been waiting for the Democrats to step up to do this? I mean, we've been here waiting for how long for the Democrats to actually fight back? How long have we been asking the Democrats to actually do something like this? I mean, we did have the Biden-Harris administration try and do the right thing. There's a little bit more here in this video. I want to pull this up here. Because there's a video here from even Trump himself speaking. So let's go ahead and pull this up here. Just words from Trump about this very same issue as well. So let's go ahead and pull this up here for everybody watching. Let me rewind.
But starting today, the United States will no longer subsidize the health care of foreign countries, which is what we were doing. We're subsidizing others' health care, countries where they paid a small fraction of what for the same drug that what we pay many, many times more for. And we'll no longer tolerate profiteering and price gouging from Big Pharma. But again, it was really the countries that forced Big Pharma to do things that, frankly, I'm not sure they really felt comfortable doing, but they've gotten away with it, these countries. European Union has been brutal. So for the first time in many years, we'll slash the cost of prescription drugs, and we will bring fairness to America. Drug prices will come down by much more, really, if you think 59. If you think of a drug that is sometimes 10 times more expensive, it's much more than the 59%. It depends on the way you want to analyze it, but in one way you could analyze it that way. But between 59 and 80, and I guess even 90%.
Yep. And there it is. The biggest con ever. The American people being screwed up the wazoo because we have a system that doesn't give a damn about the American people. We have a system that constantly screws us over. Now, do I expect Trump to be this knight in shining armor to save us? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I do want there to be a conversation about lowering the cost of healthcare. But if this is what it's going to cost, but if this is a pathway to something better, then okay. But we know the system. There's always going to be a loophole. There's going to be a judge, or there's going to be a whole bunch of senators and congressmen and women right now getting phone calls. Okay. Which means as soon as that phone starts ringing, these congressmen and women are going to pick it up and they're going to be told, hey, what Trump is proposing, stop it. Click. And they'll be both Democrat and Republican. Democrats and Republicans who will be working in tandem, working together, hand in hand. Because there's going to be so many questions, because there's money to be made. And if you could bleed out the American people and keep us in debt, absolutely. How many times have we seen stories of Americans being pushed aside, being stepped on by the top 1%? How many times have we seen the healthcare insurance industry and big pharma deny affordable care, access to medicine? It's a story that's repeated over and over again. Now, I think we need to keep our eyes open, our ears open, and our thinking caps on and being critical of everything that's being proposed by this administration. But if we do not start actually actively fighting, like us being on the ground here, actively fighting for what we demand is to be fair, nothing will fundamentally change.